There's new controversy in the nation's capital. Of course, where else? The Justice Department now defending the summary of the Mueller report. The pushback is in response to reporting today that investigators on Mueller's staff are not happy with William Barr's handling of it. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is live with the details. Catherine, I'm surprised that it took them so long to actually say this, if this was actually how they feel.
Well, that's right. Well, this morning, the Justice Department really went on the offense, Dana, taking issue with these media accounts that the Mueller report contains summaries that were releasable. And the statement reads in part, every page of the confidential report provided to Attorney General Barr on March 22, 2019, was marked may contain material protected under Federal Rule Criminal Procedure, that's the acronym there, 6E, a law that protects confidential grand jury information, and therefore could not be publicly released. After the New York Times reported some special counsel investigators told associates that their findings are far more negative than Barr's 4-page summary, the president tweeted, quote, the New York Times had no legitimate sources, which would be totally illegal concerning the Mueller report. In fact, they probably had no sources at all. White House press secretary had even more.
The people that have been involved in this process, they've wasted 2 years of their life, and they need to find a way to validate it. They've lost in 2016, they lost on the collusion battle, and now they're looking for any and everything they can to continue to attack this president because they have no message.
Separately, letters obtained by Fox News show Republican Senators Grassley and Graham alerted Attorney General Barr last month that congressional investigators uncovered evidence of potential, quote, improper political influence, misconduct, and mismanagement in the Russia probes. Fox News understands the senators wanted Barr to have this information before he reviewed Mueller's findings. Dana.
Catherine Herridge, thank you.
Today, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel sent Smollett a letter demanding that he pay the city $130,000 by the way, in next week to help cover the costs of the police investigation into the fake attack.
My recommendation is when he writes the check, in the memo section, he can put the word, I'm accountable for the hoax.
Well, joining me now is Martin Priebe. He's the vice president of the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. All right, $130,000. That's Rahm's bill to Jussie. Is that enough?
No, that's not enough. It would have been much better if the mayor joined in calling for the federal investigation. We really feel strongly that he should have done that. I mean, he demanded a federal investigation of the police department. He advocated for a consent decree that we think is unjustified and that the Trump administration and Jeff Sessions thought was unjustified. So we definitely think this is worthy of a FBI investigation.
Yeah, Martin, I want to play what you're referring to is what Mayor Emanuel said today about basically telling Trump to butt out. Watch.
Yeah.
My recommendation is the president, go to opening day baseball, sit on the sideline, stay out of this. You created a toxic environment.
It's almost like he had to get back in the good graces of the left after his performance the day before, where he actually sounded reasonable and really smart on this issue. Now it's got to get back to hating Trump, because actually this hate crime was really created by Trump. And that's kind of implicit in what he's saying there, Martin.
Well, I mean, you said that, yes, and I'm not going to disagree with you. And like I said, when the Obama Justice Department was running things, he was all in favor of them coming into Chicago, initiating investigation that we didn't think was justified based upon false assumptions. It was a kind of a ludicrous investigation. Trump's DOJ said, no, we're not going to put us in a consent decree. But he and the state attorney general put it in. And now he doesn't want the Trump DOJ to investigate what clearly is something that cries out for an investigation. What happened here? What were the motives of things?
It's unbelievable. I mean, this is one of the more unreal things that I've ever witnessed when it comes to criminal justice in the country. And I've been around a long time reporting on this. Martin, I also want to get your response to the outrageous allegation by Smollett's attorney today. Now, she has a wild new theory about why those two Nigerian brothers were implicated in the attack.
Obviously, you can disguise that. You could put makeup on. There is actually, interestingly enough, a video. You know, I think police did minimal investigation in this case. It took me all of 5 minutes to Google. You know, I was looking up the brothers, and one of the first videos that showed up actually was one of the brothers in whiteface doing a Joker monologue with white makeup on. And so it's not implausible.
Okay, Martin, does she really think you all in the Chicago PD are that dumb? So now the Nigerian brothers were in whiteface? That's the new thing they're going with?
Well, does she really care about the Chicago PD? I mean, the rest of the country is getting a view into the criminal justice system in Chicago. But if you're a Chicago police officer, these kinds of wild, outrageous things happen all the time. You know, we've been railing about Kim Foxx for a long time on cases we think are much more scandalous.
Right.
For example, the exoneration of convicted killers, what we think are just totally baseless arguments, who go out and then file multi-million-dollar lawsuits against the detectives who did the case, who investigated the case. Imagine being a detective.
Yeah.
Imagine being a detective in this case. You painstakingly investigated a hate crime. And now they're turning, you know, they're ridiculing you. They're making a laughingstock out of the cities, out of the police officers. It's outrageous.
But it's beyond outrageous. But she has an anti-police mentality, deep in her bones, anti-police. And I agree with you on the Obama consent decrees that handcuff police officers across this country. And by the way, everyone should know this. On Monday, and we'll be covering it on Monday, there's going to be a big police protest. The police union's going to have a protest against Kim Foxx. You see the details there, 69 West Washington. And it's at 11 in the morning, April Fool's Day, but it's not going to be a joke. So you're going to get a big turnout there, do you think, Martin?
We hope so. Our first vice president, Pat Murray's putting it together. He's doing a great job. The members, you know, the members are outraged about this case, and they're finally happy that the national media is looking at it. And, you know, Chicago's crying out for some really good investigative journalism. It really is.
Martin, thank you so much. We really appreciate your joining us and what the Chicago PD do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Former Vice President Biden says he'll be more respectful of people's personal space, but stop short of using the words, "I'm sorry." But will Democrats intent on beating President Trump line up behind Biden despite his PR problem? Well, let's count down to 2020 with Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Colwin. Democratic strategist Dave Brown and Fox News contributor Molly Hemingway is back for double duty. Great to see all of you tonight.
Hey, Sean.
All right,
to see you.
Mercedes, I'll start with you. Politico reporting on this under the headline, "He won't directly apologize. Biden video falls short for some Democrats," says this. Former Iowa Lieutenant Governor Patty Judge, an influential early state Democrat, rejected any notion that the party would cede its superior position on Me Too issues if Biden were the nominee, saying there's a marked distinction between Biden's conduct and that of President Donald Trump. But Mercedes, do you think they're going to want to avoid the comparison altogether?
Well, certainly they will, and frankly, just even their accusers are not saying that Biden has exhibited any predatory sexual behavior. They're talking about the fact that he made them feel uncomfortable, that he breached boundaries, that he touched them in a way that made them feel uncomfortable, but no one's coming forward and saying he behaved like a predatory male, and this was all about some sort of sexual assault. So no one is talking about that, and what will be helpful to Biden, of course, is the history that he has of being supportive of women, and then his apology, although it wasn't the apology that a lot of folks wanted because he didn't actually say, "I'm sorry," but he did acknowledge that there are boundaries that he may have breached. He did acknowledge that he felt that he was going to conform his behavior in the future. So all of that combined, I think that he's going to be pretty much successful in the long run in terms of at least passing by this controversy that surrounded him.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to see if he gets in, but the Wall Street Journal says that he's going to be much more mindful under this headline. They say Democratic primary voters have said finding a candidate who has the best chance of defeating President Trump is their top priority. And Biden has deep ties to organized labor and working class voters, a background that could help him against Mr. Trump in crucial states Democrats lost in 2016. So, Dave, do you think they'll be willing to brush this aside with Biden, say he's a friendly guy, this is just the way he works, despite the fact that there are women saying no, maybe uncomfortable, because they know on some of these things he is a good matchup with the president?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vice President has an incredible history of service to the country and also as a champion for women, sponsoring Violence Against Women Act, as well as a number of other important legislative achievements related to empowering women. But I thought Mercedes' point was a really important one when she said that there really isn't any kind of predatory behavior that's been demonstrated here. And I think intent is really relevant to this conversation. What I heard from the Vice President today with his Twitter video was an acknowledgement. I'm listening and I'm learning, and I recognize that behavior that perhaps I thought was benign, it doesn't actually matter because, and this is what Speaker Pelosi was saying too, it's how the people on the other end of that, receiving that touch, that feel, whatever, how they're feeling, right? And so that perception, and I think the Vice President really has heeded that message, has taken that to heart, and so I think the party certainly recognizes that. They recognize the long history of championship that he's had, and I do think that if he does choose to enter the race, he's going to be incredibly successful.
Molly?
I don't think it's that surprising that this story is coming out right now, and that we have all seen the way that Joe Biden acts. And I think you saw a lot of people talking about it while he was the vice president. People believe these women because they saw how friendly he is or how uncomfortable he made women. What is interesting, though, is that it's coming out now, and it didn't come out while he was the vice president. When he was such an important and influential leader of the world, the media didn't go after him, but now they are. I think that's interesting. I think it actually speaks to what a threat he is in the Democratic primary. People know that he would be a strong contender, and they might be trying to take him out. It's also interesting that you're not seeing a lot of support from his former running mate, Barack Obama or Michelle Obama. These are people who we were told were very close. They're not coming out and saying that they support him. It's just an interesting silence on their part.
Okay, I want to get you all quickly to weigh in with the fact that all of the Democratic contenders, most of them are going to be at the National Action Network with the Reverend Al Sharpton. He says, I want to hear substance. I don't want sound bites. I want to know where the meat is. Don't just show up and give us dessert. So we'll get reaction from each of you about the contenders who are going to have to go there and make their case. Quickly, Mercedes, to you first.
Well, certainly they're going to have to make sure that their message is very clear. It's not just about empty promises, but going forward and saying this is a plan that we have in order to make a change in the future, and this is how we're going to embrace change. It's going to be much more. It's going to be highly scrutinized for sure, and they're just going to have a very meaningful response to what they're being asked to do.
Dave?
I love that. Don't just give us dessert.
Yeah, he says he wants the meat, not dessert.
That's great.
Yeah.
Look, I think good. Let's have a serious conversation about inequities in housing and education, income inequality, the fact that black Americans are 30% less likely to own a home than white Americans. That's the lowest level since the 1960s. These are important issues. I think Democrats should be leading on these issues. I think we should have a national conversation about these issues. I would love for them not to even be partisan. I think it's well overdue. So good on Al Sharpton. I hope that every candidate steps up to the challenge.
He's become very powerful, Molly, since the 80s.
And and it's kind of surprising given his past, which I don't think people talk about enough, of his involvement in race riots and hoaxes, but that's another thing entirely. You're seeing in the Democratic primary there are more radical demands placed on candidates. You're not seeing a lot of the policy proposals fleshed out, and the challenge is how do you appeal to the base without alienating the general population voter should you win the nomination.
It's always tricky in the primaries. All right, Molly, Dave, and Mercedes, thank you all.